monitoring the Supreme Court. One of the rulings is coming down now. Do we have enough to be able to report on it? It's on SEIU.
Yes. SEIU. It's a case. Just listen to the wording of this.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
The issue was whether a state can require its employees to pay a special union fee, require the employees to pay a union fee that will be spent for political purposes without giving them any information about the fee in advance. So we can require people to just pay the union's political bills without even telling them that they're going to pay the union's political bills.
That's crazy.
So it looks like that has been ruled against. It's against SEIU.
Oh,
shockingly,
hang on.
7-2.
Oh, who are the two dissenting votes?
Breyer and Kagan. So even Ginsburg voted against SEIU. Ninth Circuit, shockingly, again reversed.
Hang on. Let's take a minute and just mourn for SEIU. Okay, I think that's enough time.
Watch him complain about that. Watch him complain about this.
Oh, yeah.
Right-wing, out-of-control, extremist Supreme Court.
Yeah. Oh, you wait. Oh, it's just... it's...
Ginsburg is out of control right wing.
That's how they'll spin it, though. That's how they'll spin it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad. It's starting to shape up to be a very bad summer for the unions, isn't it?
Not a positive moment for them.
No. Well, they can always go back and savor their win in Wisconsin.
Gosh,
I
hate
hate to bring what they really lose there, though, in that case.
No, they didn't.
He gets to serve out the rest of his term. Big deal. They didn't really lose anything then.
The big winner there was Barack Obama.
Oh, huge.
Oh, huge.
He won huge in Wisconsin.
Oh, man. Can I tell you something? We're going to do a election night coverage in November. And we're doing it on GBTV, and I will tell you that it will be unlike any other election night coverage you've ever seen. We're gathering some of the journalists now. Can we say about?
No.
You know who it is?
Yes, but no.
Okay. We have some people, some journalists that you're going to enjoy. You're going to just be like, oh, I've missed them. We have some people that you're going to enjoy, and we're doing some things just to show the networks that, we have every intention. 2016? Yeah, you're going to be in trouble. But anyway, it's going to be fun because I have a feeling that this could be an extraordinarily satisfying night. Unless you run a labor union, then you might not like it.
Well, they get treated so unfairly. I mean, can you imagine having a business where you're not able to force by law people to pay you for something without telling them what it's for? I mean, that's impossible to run a business without that ability.
Can you imagine that? Imagine that. If I could just take money out of your check, you have to pay me, and then I can spend that money any way I want. Who would rule that? Who thinks that's normal? Who thinks that's freedom? I mean, that's craziness. That's craziness. And even Ginsburg says that's craziness. All right, so how long before we find out if there's going to be any other rulings today?
There's been 2 so far in about 9 minutes. So
what's the second?
What's the other one?
The other one was it was a smaller case that people weren't particularly riveted about unless you were involved in it, I would say.
Okay. What was it about?
Why are you hiding it? What is this one about?
What is it? Is it about George Bush? Did they put him in prison?
Southern Union Company versus United States. Whether the Constitution requires that a jury rather than a judge may find beyond a reasonable doubt the fact that leads to a higher fine for a criminal defendant.
Oh, finally they ruled on that. I mean, how many times did we talk about that in the last year? I can't believe you said
there's a lot that they're deciding on that we really haven't talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's one where can we put a 14-year-old into jail without parole?
For life.
For life. No parole.
Because the kid killed somebody.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I guess they did rule,
that
right?
That one's
a
little harder. That one's a little harder. Well, here. I'm the president of the United States. Do we kill Osama? Yes. Okay, now, do we put a 14-year-old in prison for life without parole? Was it really, like, heinous, like, out-of-control murder? Yes. I'm good. I mean, I don't know why it takes the Supreme Court that long to figure some of these things out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I want to read the Constitution, but I could have that in my pocket. If that's what I do all day, is I'm the Supreme Court Justice, how many pages is that whole pocket Constitution? What about, it's like 30 pages in my pocket, and I think I get the farewell address, too. I might get the Declaration of Independence. If that's what I do for the rest of my life, I could have that thing memorized.
Yeah, because you handpick your workload, too. It's like, I don't want to do that. No,
I know.
I don't want to do that.
I mean, how great is that one?
All right, I might rule on that one.
Supreme Court is the sweetest gig.
It's a great gig.
It is.
You can't be taken out. Well, I mean, you could, but it's highly unlikely. It's happened like once or twice in history.
You know what? They made their job harder by going to case law. That's not the way it was intended.
Yeah.
It was intended you just rule on the Constitution. That's it. Not this case law, not this ever-evolving bullcrap.
Well, case law is ridiculous.
Yeah, you want to evolve the Constitution? Great, put an amendment in it.
Mm-hmm.
You make the amendment. That's how you evolve the Constitution. We don't do it through case law. That's ridiculous. And they made it harder for themselves. What a sweet gig! You got a pocket. You got your whole handbook fits into your pocket. That's the greatest thing ever. Can you imagine if your work was like, show up and just remember these 20 pages. And by the way, you have this job for life. And you can handpick what your day is like. This is the greatest job ever.
And you work like once a year.
Yeah, you show up on a Tuesday. You get like 4 months off a year, but it's going to be, you got to pretend that it's really hard. You need that time off to refresh, because it's really tough. You got all the answers right in your pocket. Don't let anybody know what a sweet gig this is. Oh, and by the way, nobody's going to question you because you're a Supreme Court justice. You see what I mean? It's a sweet gig.
Yeah.
All right. So now here's some of the other ones. We obviously know about health care. I'll bet you that comes out next Thursday.
Yeah, they're saying that they might hold that one to last since it's the biggest one.
They want to get out of town.
Yeah, exactly. From both sides, probably.
Yeah, they want to get out of town.
The other big one, probably the second biggest one, is the Arizona immigration law is getting to be is supposed to be ruled on by next Thursday in some way or another. There's a couple of other pretty interesting ones.
Wait, who wrote the prevailing decision on SEIU?
That was Alito. So
that's your first tip off that it didn't go well for you.
Yeah, it's a very good point. SEIU did not want Alito's name to be the one writing that decision.
How much will you celebrate if the majority opinion is written by Scalia? Mm-hmm. On Obamacare.
No.
Oh, a lot.
Yes,
very much.
A lot.
Yes. There's no way Scalia writes it unless it's all taken down, right? I mean, if we see the majority opinion by Kagan, we're in trouble. So screwed.
We're in trouble.
We are so screwed.
Or worse
even
yet,
Ginsburg would be like,
I don't know.
Oh, no. Kagan. Kagan's worse than Ginsburg, don't you think?
I don't know if anybody's worse than Ginsburg.
Yeah, I would have thought
pretty
Ginsburg.
Bad.
Breyer has really become the president of the awful jurors as well. But I don't know. I think
I have a soft spot in my heart for him because he may be related to the ice cream people.
Yeah, okay. That's fair.
And I'm like, you know what? His family's been making great ice cream for a long time. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt.
So he's got a couple of bad opinions. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Have you tried his chocolate chip mint? It is delicious.
One of the other big ones as well is the FCC on whether, this goes back to the Janet Jackson Super Bowl thing, the Super Bowl incident, whether their standards for indecency on television are too vague to be constitutional.
This one I'm really torn on because if they say, yes, it's too vague, then we have a problem because they're going to clean that up. If they say it's not too vague, it really is too vague.
It really is.
It really is too vague.
You don't know. Under the rules of what was going on, under the rules at the time, they deserve to be fined over the Super Bowl incident. However, the rules, as a broadcaster, they're impossible to know what they are. Literally, it's basically, it's when they call it community standards on radio. And I guess it's the same essentially on TV as well. But there's no rule. There's no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. They just sort of make it up. Does it feel like it's indecent? And that line is just impossible to know as a broadcaster. You really don't know from day to day whether you're breaking this rule or not.
What are your community standards? Let's say I say something and the community of Rochester gets all upset. What are your community standards? Can I go to court and say, these are your community standards? Look at your kids on the bus. Look how your kids treat this old woman on the bus. What are your community standards? Tell me about your community standards. Who's defining them? This liberal organization over here, this conservative organization over here. Let me show you the videotape of your own people. Don't tell me about your community standards. You have none.
I think you win that case.
I think you do too.
Yeah.
I think you do too. But that's the problem. The problem with all of this stuff is you need somebody to define all this stuff if you don't have self-regulation.
This is, it's almost exactly the same problem the founders faced when they were trying to figure out whether or not to do a Bill of Rights. And the reasons a lot of them didn't want to do a Bill of Rights is because if you specify some of them, well, then you're eliminating everything else. I don't have the right to this and that, and if you're
that's why they
I have the right to only these.
That's why they made
it was hard.
A charter of negative liberties, which the president is always complaining about, because they wanted to say everything else is retained by the people. If it's not stated in here, the people have it. These are just the things that we're not telling them what they can have. We're telling the government what you cannot do. Absolutely, positively, these things can never be violated, period. Mm-hmm. And any other thing people can think of, they have the right to it. They have the right to it. They can come to you, and you can never go to them and say, well, it's not in the Constitution here. No. Constitution is to restrain the government, not the people.
So it's really hard when it comes to community standards like decency, because what's decent?
And that's the other thing.
If you say nudity, can you show breastage all the way down to the nipple and then just not that? Or
so tough.
It's really hard.
Community standards. We have 400 stations nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
I can say one thing that New York City, they're totally cool with. Community standards in Salt Lake City are a lot different than New York City.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? How do I could get, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stu, can't they get me on community standards in one town?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. So we have to comply to, the highest community standard. It might be completely unrelatable in some other, that's the idea. Might be completely unrelatable in some other city, but you're supposed to comply, because if Salt Lake City can say that's out of our community standards, then we can get nailed by it. And then I think you get hit per city, don't you?
Yeah,
it's some crazy.
It makes it
makes it impossible to pay the fine.
Again, it's one of those things where the motivation is good, in that you don't want people exposed to, But you get to that point where I'd like to play in a game in which the rules were clear. I mean, you play in a sport, you understand what you're supposed to do. You're allowed to do certain things and not other things.
I don't want anybody defining rules.
Well, I mean,
we define them ourselves.
Look, as a guy who's a free market guy, to me, you should be able to do what you want, and you turn it off if you don't want it. But beyond that, it's like, if I'm going to play in this game, I at least like to know what the rules are. And I don't know. No one knows.
The only reason why we have this is because the progressives convince people that the spectrum belongs to the people, because the government wanted to make money on the spectrum and be able to control it. So air belongs to the people. Really? Well, it's a limited spectrum. Not anymore. It's not a limited spectrum anymore. We can transmit things through the air 1 billion different ways, and we'll continue to find 1 billion different ways more in the future. Why is this one regulated and the others aren't? And God forbid you bring that up, because then they'll say, you're right, there is no difference. We should regulate the rest of it. Oh, jeez, for the love of Pete. Not a ruling that I'm looking forward to. But again, let's see the pain in our fellow brother and celebrate the pain of SEIU today. Oh, geez. George Whitefield, Billy Graham, Jesus. They wouldn't have said that. Gandhi wouldn't have said that. Good thing you're not listening to the Gandhi, George Whitefield, Jesus, Billy Graham show, isn't it?